Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. I am so honored and delighted to have our next guest. Oh my goodness, you guys are just going to love her. We have the one and only Mandy Connell. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about her. She is an individual who is currently living her dream as a noon to 3 p.m. host on the KOA radio and the owner of the Ladies Chit Chat Club podcast show. She is a native Floridian who got to Colorado as fast as she could after radio gigs in Orlando, Gainesville, Fort Myers, and Naples, Florida, with a 3-year stop at Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville. It's Louisville. We don't say
Louisville.
Actually, in Louisville, they say Louisville. So yeah, we don't say it the proper.
I'm from Kansas. I'm gonna do my little Kansas twang. And she's also currently number 46 on the Talkers magazine, Heavy 100 talk show host, and lives with her husband, daughter, and St. Bernard while keeping tabs on her 2 grown sons and 2 grandchildren. Welcome, Mandy. I am so delighted to have you here.
I'm thrilled to be here as well. Normally I'm on the other side. Interviewing
the interviewee. Something like that, maybe.
It's kind of weird. I'm not going to lie. It's very strange. I'm used to being the one to ask the questions.
Yes, you are. And I mean, we met, I'm wondering, we met like maybe 3 years ago? Maybe?
It was probably a year and a half. I'm so bad at time. And especially after 2020, like what 2020 is just, somebody said to me the other day, what's the date? And I was like, August 16th. And they're like, no, it's September 5th. I mean, what? How did that happen? Like, what is happening right now?
You have mommy, mommy's brain.
Yes.
COVID brain. Like, this is
exactly.
So anything from here on out, like, we have an excuse.
Exactly.
All right. Well, so for those that have not met you or just had the honor to, share in your presence here, share with us your story of how you came to be where you're at today.
Well, I never thought I would be in talk radio ever. It just didn't occur to me. When I was a kid, there was no women on the radio. So you don't necessarily aspire to do things that you don't see yourself doing. I was actually a flight attendant for Delta Airlines, and I did that for 5.5 years in my 20s, which was amazing, and it was so much fun. But I had reached the point where I knew I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life, but I had no clue what to do next. Oh, and I forgot the best part. I dropped out of college to become a flight attendant. So my senior year in college, I dropped out to become a flight attendant, which I don't regret at all at this point. But now you're faced with the prospect. I don't have a college degree, and I was majoring in theater. Oh my God, what was I thinking? But I really had no clue what was going on. And just by happenstance, I the whole time I was flying, I was on reserve, which means that they would call and tell you where you were flying, or you would call in and they would tell you where you were flying. I never had a set schedule. Well, one December, I got a set schedule because I finally had enough seniority that of course I had to fly on Christmas and New Year's Eve, but I had a set schedule. And it was a trip that went between Palm Beach and Hartford, Connecticut. And we had 2 gentlemen get on the flight one day, 2 completely unrelated businessmen, and they got into a fist fight on the airplane. Now, this was pre 9/11, so the standards were a lot different and a lot more lax. It just wasn't like it is now. And we had them, they were fighting over a seat neither of them had a ticket for, by the way. Both of them wanted their briefcase in the center seat, but there wasn't enough room for both briefcases. These were businessmen. So this happened. And then the next week, I'm telling the flight attendants about this fist fight on the airplane, and I'm making fun of it. I'm like, oh, they said, what did you do? I said, well, I got on the PA for the people that didn't have good seats, so they could give them a blow by blow of what's going on. And this man overheard me. And as he got off the plane, he said, you need to be in radio or television. You should give me a call. Well, at the time, I'm a 27-year-old skinny platinum blonde flight attendant. I used to get a lot of cards from old men, and I totally threw it away. I just was like, okay, thanks. I appreciate that. And again, I'm not thinking that this is a possibility for me. Right. It's just not a possibility. So he, fast forward, the next week, I'm flying the same flight in the other direction, and he gets on the plane, and he turns around to his wife and goes, Sally, this is the girl I was talking about. Now you have to understand, think about how random that is. How many
I just got goosebumps.
I'm telling you, it's the most amazing story. So the fact that he was on my flight twice was incredible, like statistically insignificant, how crazy that is. His name is Dick Robinson. He owns the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. And he said, I have this broadcasting school and you should do it. And I was like, this was honestly the first time this light bulb went off in my head. Well, there was a radio station in Orlando, Florida that I had listened to for years. And it was talk radio, but it was not your mama's talk radio. It was like hot talk. It was Howard Stern in the morning and then a bunch of shows like that throughout the day. But I loved it because it was fun and crazy. Then I started thinking, wait a minute. Well, maybe I could go work for them, So I went, they actually took me to lunch. He and his wife took me to lunch in Connecticut. And I'm still such a doubting Thomas that his daughter, who was my age, came to pick me up from the hotel where we were laying over. And I made her give me her driver's license and make a Xerox copy at the desk in case anything happened to me. I'm dead serious. So, but I went to lunch with them, and they are the most delightful, wonderful human beings you've ever met in your life. And Dick has been in radio since the 1950s. And he has a wall in his house that is easily 20, 30 feet long. And from floor to ceiling, it is covered with 8x10 pictures of Dick Robinson with every person famous that you can think of from 1955 to like 1989. And I'm talking about presidents, popes, the Beatles, the Who, the Beach Boys. I mean, everyone. And I just looked at it at the wall and I said, did you Forrest Gump yourself into all these pictures? Forrest Gump had just come out. And he said, no, this is what radio has done for me. And I was just blown away. And the school was a little bit pricey. He told me how much it was, and I started laughing. I was like, I don't have that kind of money. What am I going to do? I'm still paying off student debt for a degree I didn't get. And he said, I will give you a scholarship. I have more money than God. I don't need your money. So he let me go at a greatly reduced price, but that still didn't solve my problem of I'm flying. So you can't exactly skip class to do a 3-day trip. And literally like 6 weeks later, Delta came and offered leaves of absence because Delta did not, and I don't know if this is still the policy. I mean, this was the 90s, but they did not want to lay people off. So they would do an offer of a leave. You could do a 3-month leave. You could do a 7-month leave. You kept all your flight benefits. You kept your insurance, but it was just their way of not laying you off. Well, they came in and said, we're offering 7-month leaves. Wow. And I said, the stars are aligning here. Yeah. So I took a leave. Wonderful. I went to the broadcasting school. He had one in Palm Beach. I was living in Florida at the time. Went to broadcasting school down there. And it's only a 2-month program. It's not, let's face it, we're not curing cancer in radio, Teri. Okay, so we don't need 4 years of college for radio. And I went to the school, and I figured if I don't have a job, I would just go back to flying and then figure something out. But if I had a job, then I would not go back to flying. And technically, I didn't have a paying job when I decided not to go back to flying, but I had finagled my way into an internship at that radio station that I loved in Orlando, working in their promotions department. And so I was in the door. I was in the building.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell people. I worked for free at that radio station, far more than I was legally allowed to work at that radio station. And I just kept literally showing up. Yeah. Like I never said anything about my internship. I just kept showing up. And I was like, my roommate said, how long are you going to work for free? Because I was waiting tables too to pay for my life. I had to pay my way. And I was waiting tables and I was interning. And she said, how long are you going to intern for free? I said, I'm going to intern for free until they kick me out or until a job becomes available.
I love it.
That's what's going to happen. And I ended up getting hired by the news station in that building, in the cluster in Orlando. And it was the worst job I've ever had in my entire life. My boss was a severe alcoholic, and the guy who was supposed to relieve me at 3 a.m. just kept not showing up. And I would work from 7 p.m. on Friday to 11 a.m. on Saturday because he just kept not showing up. But did they fire him? No, they did not. It was just a train wreck of a situation.
Yeah.
And one night I'm working the board. I'm sitting there, doing my thing. And this guy comes in. He worked at another radio station, and he said, "Hey, what do you know about this overnight show on Real Radio? Real Radio 104.1 is the station." And I said, "Not much. Why do you ask?" And he said, "Because there's a producer's job available there." And I said, "I am so sorry you just told me that, because I am going to go get that job. Like, that's what's going to happen." I blatantly told him. I was like, "You never should have told me about that." So the next day, or the next Monday, I guess the job had been posted for a couple weeks or something at that point. And I went on Monday, and I called the program director, who I'd never met because I just didn't cross paths with him. And I said, "Are you still interviewing for the overnight producer position?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, you can cancel all the other interviews. I'll be in it too."
I love your boldness.
Well, let me tell you something, you guys.
Right.
I say that like you guys think that comes naturally to me. That came after literally pacing around my house for a good 25 minutes, getting up the stones to do this. But I knew the kind of radio station it was. Like, I knew the attitude of the radio station. So I knew that if I brought that attitude, it would help me more than it would hurt me. So I decided, and I said, "You can cancel all those." And he goes, "Okay, I'll see you at 2." And when I walked in at 2, he goes, "I just had to see the person that had the stones to do that." And I was like, "Well, here I am. When do I start?" I literally bluffed my way through the whole thing, and he hired me. And I got my first job working overnights as an overnight producer. And that's how really, that was like my first big job. And it was an important one for the radio station. Doing what I wanted taught me so much, both what to do and what not to do, honestly. But that's kind of how it all got started.
Well, and I think there's you just dropped a whole bunch of gold in this conversation in the sense that, the first thing is, you just kept showing up.
Yeah.
Like, how often do we, find an excuse, or just, you just started showing up and started doing what you knew was the right thing and what felt good for you. So you showed up, which is incredible. And then the other thing is, there's a saying, you kind of have to fake it till you make it, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I live by that.
You went and you bundled up all the courage you had in the world. And yes, it took some, tons of pacing, but you showed up in another way with just pure confidence. And that confidence got you in the door.
Teri, is I am an absolute faker when it comes to confidence. And I was for 10 years in my radio career. Now, I've had my own show at this point. That was in 1997 that happened. And I've worked in the news. I've done sports radio. I've worked on a bunch of different shows. I didn't get my own show until 2005. And you'd think in 2005, when I got my own show, that I would feel like I was somebody, like I had made it. I'm not even kidding you. I just now, at this point in my life, am feeling like, you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about what I've accomplished. Yeah. So I don't want people to think that I was full of all this bravado, because it was all fake. Every bit of it was a lie at that point.
Well, and I think too, like, even in this industry, and I think for, we were talking earlier about, in this industry, it's very cutthroat, it is very, you have to have a tough, thick skin. And I'm curious, like, I talk to a lot of people about, mindset and, our limiting beliefs. I am guessing, just based on what you just shared, that you have had a challenge or a struggle with that along your path. Like, so what is, for listeners that are listening today, what was, one thing, or, beyond the, just kind of, fake it till you make it, but what was that for you that kept you going and, kept doing the personal development on you?
And this again it's a long journey. So you're getting the end part here. And one of the things that frustrates me, because I watch a lot of motivational videos, I watch a lot of mindset videos. I believe in them. They work. If you are one of those people that is just dipping your toe in, jump in full bore, because you can absorb so much positive energy from people sharing their stories. But it's a little bit frustrating when you look at someone who is very, very successful and very, very confident, and you think to yourself, well, that's not me. Well, at some point it wasn't them either.
Right.
That's the thing. It's all part of the journey. And over the last 15 years, I've had so many small experiences. And there's a couple big ones that were self-inflicted wounds that, really were huge learning lessons. And I'll share one in just a second. But it's really like a death by 1,000 cuts in a way, because you do have to have an extremely thick skin as a talk show host, because people will send you the most vile, horrible emails and Facebook comments, and really social media has made it far worse. But you have to just remember, for me, the thing that I always remember in business, in talk radio, is you can never take it personally, because you're going to piss off every single person who listens to you at some point, because everybody has a soft spot. Everybody has their area that is sensitive to them for whatever reason. And you don't know any of this. You have no way of knowing this. And when you do hit that soft spot, they're going to come at you. But the thing you have to remember is it's not personal. This is, you guys, that's the best piece of advice I can give for anyone. When you are negotiating a contract, it is not personal. When you are trying to get a promotion, for the most part, it is not personal. And we tend to internalize these things because for us, it feels personal, right? I mean, here I am putting my heart out on the radio every day. And when someone attacks me for something that I strongly believe, it feels personal, but it's not, because they're on their own journey. And they're having their own struggles. And perhaps you hit their soft spot on that day where they got in a fight with their spouse, their kids are being jerks, their dog ran away, their car broke down, and you are the focus of their ire because they can't control any of those other things.
Yeah.
So once I started to understand that, everything got so much easier. I mean, and I have, honestly, I joke that I have alligator skin because for years. Okay, let me go back. I've got two major points. You have no idea what you're in for right now, Teri. Okay, you have no clue what you have just unleashed in this. But the first job that I was talking about was working on this overnight show, and it was a hot talk show, and it was so fun. We had a blast until we didn't. And then the relationship between the host and I soured greatly. And I am sugarcoating exactly how bad it soured. It soured greatly. And it ended up with an explosive fight right before the show one night, and I left. I quit. But I had a pretty clear sexual harassment lawsuit. I mean, the whole underlying part of this, very much I could have sued for sexual harassment. I spoke to an attorney. It was that bad. And the attorney said, you will absolutely win this case, but you will never work in radio again. She said, if you pursue this, you will win, and you will win a decent, but not life-changing amount of money. You'll win something to get you through a couple of years, but it will be very difficult for you to get hired in radio again, and you need to understand that. She's like, I'm not saying for real you'll never work again, but you will be tagged as that woman who sued. And this was, again, 1998. So this was well before Me Too. This was well before anything else. So in order to keep me from suing, they gave me a job on a sports station, working with two other guys on this morning show. And it was not, we didn't have any chemistry. It was not a good show. The guys are great guys, but it was just, I was thrust upon them, that kind of thing. They didn't want me. But I started getting hate mail on this sports station, and it was brutal. I mean, I can't even say the words in a family-friendly podcast. The subject line would say something like, hey, whore. I mean, it was brutal. And I printed all of them out. I printed every one of them out, and I put them in a stack on my desk. And I called that my FU pile. And every day I came to work, I was like, FU, I still have a job. And that was what motivated, it like fueled my fire, because I was not going to let these horrible, nasty emailers win. Literally, I was like, I'm not going to let you guys win. What's funny is about 6 months later, we start doing events and everything. And I would have men walk up to me and say, and they would be all, looking down at their feet, and they'd say, hey, when you first started, I sent you a really mean email, and you're actually kind of good, and I like you now, and I just wanted to say I'm sorry for that email. And it was kind of cute, and it didn't happen for every email. But that began where I started to realize, like, you cannot let these people who do not know you, they don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you. You cannot let their cursory judgment in an email affect how you view yourself, because you will rip yourself into pieces. But on the flip side, Teri, you can't believe your own press. If you get emails
Yes.
saying, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Oh my God, you're a genius. I can't believe that oh my God. And I get those emails and I love them. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful every time I get one and it's wonderful. But you can't give those any more stock because
Yeah.
if you believe those, then you got to believe the others. So you
Right.
just got to stay focused and stay in your
Yeah.
lane and stay with what you know
Yeah.
because all of that extraneous noise
Yeah.
you cannot let it affect who you are, how you feel about yourself, and your goals going forward. Because
Yeah.
people are awful, and they don't want to see other people succeed. And not everyone. I'm making a sweeping generalization, but there's so many people out there who are so miserable in their own lives that they just want to make everybody else unhappy. Don't let them, and that's a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I am
You know?
certain there are hundreds of people out here needing to hear this message today because I think I love your FU pile. I
Oh
love
yeah,
it because like that makes me think about like some, when I was writing for a magazine, like I had some hate mail come through and it was just like one of those things that's like, okay, I'm not going to let that impact what I continue to do and what I continue to speak on. Right. And so
you
I
can't.
absolutely love that.
Yeah,
Love
you
that.
can't. I mean, you have to keep doing what is working, what is, what you feel like your style is, whatever that is, and you've got to, as long as you're moving forward and you're, you know, feeling good about it and you're getting good
Yeah.
feedback from your boss and things like that, all of those extraneous things have to be taken together. You
Yeah.
can't just pick and choose which ones you're going to listen to because if you I have friends in radio that spend half their life fighting with people on social media. I don't even understand this.
Yeah.
Like
It's such an energy suck. It is such an energy suck.
exactly. And when
No,
you
thank
get
you.
in that, when you get into that, and let's be real, right now in 2020, I don't know if your Facebook page is anything like mine. I have friends that have known each other for 40 years who are at each other's throats right now
Yes.
on Facebook. And I'm thinking to myself, what this is not making anyone's life better. No
Yeah.
one's ever been convinced by being yelled at on Facebook to change their candidate. It's not ever going to
Exactly.
happen.
It's not going to happen.
And
Yeah.
so we all need to just take a step back and just focus on what is important, our family, our stuff, our individual nature, and just block out the other stuff. If it's, constructive criticism is another thing altogether. I'll have people send me an email and say, hey, you know what? You did this story, but you didn't really present the whole story, and that is constructive criticism. And that is so welcome,
That's a different animal completely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
And that's
Well,
productive.
yeah. Well, and I think too, right now in this time, in this I mean, we have so much right now that's going on in our world. And, we have to and I like this because we have to stay focused on what is it that we know in our hearts of hearts that we were supposed to be doing. And
Yes.
going back into, what is our purpose? What is our passion? Let's stay focused on that. And, let these other things that it's none of our business in a lot of ways of this other stuff. And so if we stay focused, we stay driven, for what we're looking for, things are going to continue to fall into place by us maintaining a positive mindset and for us doing the work that we know we need to be doing in this, especially during this time.
I think that what you just said about a positive mindset is incredibly important. And I want to go back to that first show that I was on that went south in a bad way. There was so much toxicity in that even when things were really great, there was a lot of toxicity that already existed in that situation.
Yeah.
And I learned probably more about how not to treat people from that experience than anything else. But there's value in that. And there's value in taking a horrible experience and making that conscious decision to not be that person. And I always tell people, I'm a relentless optimist. Okay. I am relentlessly upbeat. That's a choice I make because in life, you can look at the glass half empty. You can look at it half full. We make these choices every single day about mindset. And I am a huge believer. People talk about the law of attraction. That seems a little too much for me, but I do believe that people reflect back to you what you put out. Exactly. And I have a show now where I have two producers and I used to be them, and we have a great time and I love working with them and I know they love working with me. And we have just a wonderful environment in our show. And as the leader of that show, I have to work to create and maintain that. And I take that very seriously. I think that's a big responsibility and one that people kind of forget sometimes when they are trying to grow their company or they're trying to hire new people. All of that stuff flows from the top down. And I'm not their direct boss per se, but I'm the leader of the show, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my responsibility. And they'll tell you, like one of my producers was like, I've never worked with anyone who is, you know, even when things are bad, you try and like, okay, what can we do to learn from this and move
Yeah.
on? There's no need to have it any other way.
Yeah. And when you have that, and when you have that foundation of, you know, staying positive, you know, I'm the same way with you. I'm the ultimate, you know, optimistic and being like, okay, there has to be something good.
Yeah.
All of this, like, let's just find the gift. And even if it doesn't come immediately, like, let's just find one thing that we can be grateful for. And like you said, let's move on. Didn't work. Let's do a plan to review, and we're moving on to the next thing. Right.
There is a positive lesson or a positive thing to be gleaned in every situation. You just have to find it.
Yes.
You really do. And sometimes the lesson is, okay, and now I know what I never want to do again.
It's being shown that contrast, right? Like if we are shown the contrast of what we do desire and what we don't desire, like then it's like, okay, hello, thank you for the new awareness.
Yeah.
Not making that mistake again. And continue. Yes, I love it. So, well, Mandy, this has been an absolute delight to have you on here. We need to have you come back. So I'm
hoping somebody watches this and gets inspired, because I'm telling you guys, like I watch a video of some sort every morning. I do a blog for the show. So now, because everything is so horrible for politics, that I'm trying to put a non-political motivational thing on the blog every day. And all that's done is make me go back and look at some of my favorites. It is so helpful to just hear from people, especially if you're in the middle of a struggle, you know, and we've all had struggles. We didn't even really get into my struggles. I mean, there's struggles that we didn't even get to. Yeah. But if you're in the middle of a struggle, just keep swimming. Like, just keep moving forward, even if they're baby steps, even if they're like even if you're not even lifting your foot off the ground, you're just kind of shuffling it forward. Just keep moving forward. And I swear you will build momentum. And you can do whatever you want to do. And I hope somebody listens to this and says, holy cow, she just kept showing up at an internship. That seemed to work. And it did.
And it did. Imagine that.
Just don't make eye contact with anyone in HR. Okay. Just keep walking in. As long as your key card works, you're good to go. There you go.
Dances. I love it. All right. So how do people find you?
A multitude of ways. The Ladies Chit Chat Club has been on hiatus. That's my podcast. That's my baby. That is our podcast where I record with usually 3 other women, and then occasionally I'll do an interview, although lately it's just been all panel stuff. And we literally have the best time and just have a blast. And it's really for women over 35. You know, we're all over, one is 28. And then the 3 of us are over 50. So it's just a good mix of fun. And then I do a show daily on KOA News Radio. It's 850 KOA. You can listen to it anywhere in the country on iHeartRadio or on 94.1 FM and 850 AM here in Denver in the metro. Monday through Friday, noon to 3. So Ladies Chit Chat Club is on every platform, but I prefer you use the iHeart platform because that's who I work for in my real job. So go to iHeart and listen there. We'll be back from hiatus probably the end of September, I think. Okay. We've had a really big, COVID has really made it difficult for us to get together and record. And the dynamic for 4 women on Zoom is different. So we're trying to get back together. So hopefully we'll be able to get back in the same room soon.
Excellent. Okay. So I will put that information in the show notes. So take a look at her and go, follow, like, love, and whatever else you do on social media. So
subscribe. Don't forget, subscribe and subscribe to Talking with Teri.
Yes. Subscribe. Thank you, Mandy. All right. Thank you so much, Mandy.
Thanks, Teri.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.